use is based on this, and if any of you are a little bit constitutionally savvy, you'll recognize this as the First Amendment to the Constitution. And that allows us to do these kinds of things: to teach, to do research, to report news-worthy events, and finally, to produce criticism of other things. Without the First Amendment and without fair use, these things would not be possible without permission of the copyright owner. But obviously, if you see something newsworthy, you can't not report it because you need to get permission of the person who did it. So these are the 4 factors of fair use, and I put them in this order, which is not the order they're in the law, because they make this nice little acronym PANE, P-A-N-E: purpose, amount, nature, and effect. And purpose is, first of all, how you're using the work. Has your use of the work added something to it or merely copied it? Just copying something does not make it a good purpose in this case. Have you added value by creating new information, new insights, or new understandings? And these, there's a good summary of all of this on the Stanford Fair Use page, and I recommend that to anyone who's interested. But purpose is basically about how you're going to use the work. And within purpose comes this notion of transformative work, or transformative use. And I'll give you 2 examples. One is SunTrust versus Houghton Mifflin. SunTrust is the owner of Margaret Mitchell's estate and therefore her copyrights. And Houghton Mifflin is the publisher of a sort of semi-sequel to Gone with the Wind called The Wind Done Gone, which focuses on the African-American characters in that book. This was found to be fair use, by the way. Another case that you're probably more familiar with is Shepard Fairey's parody, if you will, of an Associated Press image of Barack Obama. This was not found to be fair use. So this is another thing to be wary of with fair use, is it's a defense used in court. It is not a right. The second factor is nature, and this has to do with the type of work you're using, not how you're using it. So the law intends to protect creative works more so than it protects factual works. So the type of work you're using, if it is poetry, music, or drama, or things that tend to be more creative, is less, well, it's more likely to infringe. And if you are dealing with news reporting or more factual things, it is less likely to infringe. So that's kind of a continuum on which the nature of what you're using may rest. Number 3 is the amount of that work you're using. Now, in many cases, people use the entire work, but it may not be necessary. And if it's not necessary, amount is actually something that works in your favor. If you'll notice on the internet, when you click on things in iTunes, you can usually listen to the first 30 seconds without having to pay for it. And that's in a way how iTunes uses fair use as an advertising thing to let you sample something. So amount is important, and less is more here. The less you copy, the more likely your use is to be fair. Unless, and this comes down to criticism in particular, unless you take the heart of the work. So if a new Harry Potter book were to come out and you were to write a review of that book and give away the ending, you might be liable for infringement because you have taken the heart of the work. And finally, this is the one people think is the most important, but it's actually not. It's just one of 4 factors, is the effect of your use on the market for the work. Now, I reproduce textbooks here because textbooks are easily measurable. So, in summary, the 4 factors of fair use: purpose, amount, nature, and effect. And the courts typically take all 4 of these into consideration, not just one or the other. So, then I have 3 questions that Kevin Smith has proposed that are quite useful ways of testing yourself about whether something is fair use. Will the incorporation of the copyrighted work into my work help me make my new point? Will the incorporation help my readers or my viewers get that point? And have I used no more than necessary to make my point? So you can tell quite clearly that number 3 is about the amount factor, and the first 2 are really more about the purpose. So Kevin sort of hones in on those two things in these three questions, and they're very useful tests of your own feeling about fair use.